on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have December minutes. Those were emailed to everybody. Thank you for those who bring electronics. We're going to try to save a few trees this year. So, does anyone want anything removed from that consent agenda? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve. Okay, do I have a second? Jeff motion and Gary second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. We're going to talk about JCDC a little bit. We've submitted our contracted budget to them. I haven't heard from anybody with any questions or comments. We have an appendix that needs to go over to them, Appendix B, which I have, and I'll be sending over. Tiffany helped prepare that. They want some details about the larger items on our budget. They'll review those. They have new members. Ron Bateman comes to them from the mill, and Jim Bartlett is with the City Council. Victoria Perry comes to them from the mill as well. Wendy Lawson is returning, Curtis Chatham, Trevor Crafton, and David Bramer. So they have a little consistency as well with people coming back. And some also great members representing lodging. Nancy also has lodging experience as well, so that will be helpful to add some balance to our board. Sarah, you want to give an innkeeper's tax
I sure can.
update? She prepares that report every month.
Tiffany and I work on it. Kind of pass the baton over to Tiffany to keep that going, but we definitely review it every month. I think I sent an email out, but just to put it on record, 2021 was an all-time record, $530,000, and that's 73% up over the year before. Just to kind of put those in perspective, 2019 was 425,000, which was then a record year as well. So just to compare, 2021 to 2019, that was a 26% over that normal, semi-normal year, the last normal year that we had prior to COVID. So I think that January already, I think we've had one of our highest, if not the highest, January at 38,915, and so that's.
How does that compare to other
It's
years?
so it ranges like 22 to 27, but then we'll have a 44 to 45 in there, and that might be because somebody didn't pay. You know what I mean? It might be like, but it tends to stay in the mid to upper 20s. So it seems to have increased overall, but it's 75% over last January. So we're already up 75%.
That's a really good bounce back.
Yeah.
So last year, with that record year, I think we need to pat ourselves on the back a little bit that BMI helped contribute to that. Of course, our other tourism partners, a lot of them have really worked very, very hard and thought outside the box and tried to find ways to get people back. So,
since we're talking about numbers and KPIs, on Friday we received our Jefferson County Economic Impact Report, to which we'll be reviewing this week and highlighting those key findings that came out of it. This is a report for 2020, so we were expecting the numbers to not be as great, but we obviously need numbers to have to measure and compare upon. So it was down a little. 44.8 was the year before, and it came in at 41.3 million. So still a very, very strong and top industry for our county. So it wasn't, I don't think it was as down as much as I thought it was. It was down 8%. So,
and you compare that Indiana-wide, national-wide.
And I've asked for those numbers.
And,
right.
Well, I know in Louisville, I follow Louisville because I have the Courier Journal, and 50%, 40% decrease is
Ours was down exactly about 27%, is what it came down to be. So I think we originally were reporting about 29. I think it came down to about 27% down, which is definitely way lower than what most destinations were experiencing. So, yes, absolutely. So we'll get those numbers out to you guys, and I'll be reporting on that next week for the JCBT meeting as well, and you guys can have the full report.
They have their meeting next Monday. Supposed to hang out with us. Sarah and I will attend that. So, old business, we need to have some board appointments with everyone returning. Jenny is in Mexico, so she sadly could not be here. So, but everyone else is. So I will entertain a motion for nomination for president.
I nominate Lucy.
Oh, thanks.
I'll second that.
Do we have any discussion?
Well, I was gonna ask if you wanted me to go over the roles and
Oh,
responsibilities.
you want to do that
before-
first?
Yeah. I
We
mean,
can do that.
That might
We didn't
be
have
a-
it in that order.
Oh, if you didn't have it in that order.
It was in the wrong
We did.
order. I don't
Yeah,
know
we
what's up
have-
with that.
That's okay. We can, let's hold off on that, and we'll let you talk about it.
Sure.
Lindsay.
So obviously when you join a board or even when you've been on a board for a while, it's good to just kind of do a refresher on roles and responsibilities of board members, and kind of what it means, overall, to be active on a nonprofit board. So just want to kind of go over roles and responsibilities really quickly. So there are responsibilities and for both the board and the staff when it comes to a nonprofit organization. And sometimes these lines get blurred a little bit, but it's pretty distinct really on what's the board's role versus the staff, and then what's a shared responsibility. So an easy way to remember that is that the board is the policy arm of the organization, and that the staff is the implementation arm of the organization, and that they do planning together. So the board is responsible for that vision and that mission, and making sure that you're headed in the right direction, setting that destination, if you will, and governing and strategic collaboration with other partners, your tourism partners. Also, the board would manage the executive of the organization, as well as do the capital budgeting for the organization, and then any kind of major legal or regulatory issues would be something that the board would take care of as well. On the staff side, if you have an executive director, they're going to take care of the staffing and managing the staff, managing volunteers and different programs that happen within the organization. They do all the kind of tactical collaboration, day-to-day collaboration with other organizations and tourism partners. Tiffany has our financial reporting and outcomes covered, reporting and general administration. And then as a shared responsibility, that's when you do strategic planning, which is something that the board will be doing today, and staff will be included in that. That's a shared responsibility, as well as performance evaluation. How is the organization doing, and how are we doing as board members and staff ourselves? And then fundraising, both the board and the staff are responsible for fundraising. We also like to call that friend raising, right? And just that general ambassadorship, I guess, of the organization to the community, communication about what the organization does, and then both the board and the staff have accountability for those pieces that they're responsible for. Any questions about that before I move on to the next piece of the puzzle? Okay, the next part is about fiduciary duties. So one thing that a lot of people don't quite understand sometimes is that as a board member, you actually have legal responsibilities, and you could get into a little bit of a hairy situation from time to time. That's why the board, the organization, maintains a directors and officers policy. But that also doesn't exclude you from making sure that you are taking your responsibilities seriously. So the first duty of a board member is the duty of care, and that's an active participation in moving the mission and the goals of the organization forward. So we set a strategic plan. Your duty of care is to make sure that we're trying to implement that plan. Duty of loyalty is really just about making sure that you have the interests of the organization in mind, that you're not looking at what can it do for me or what can it do for my business. You're looking at it for what is best for the organization. And then the duty of obedience is really about abiding by the laws. That includes your bylaws of the organization, and that you're focused on your purpose. And that in a lot of ways is the IRS purpose that we have stated as the goal of our organization. Any questions on that part?
I think the duty of loyalty would be difficult, and Holly and Jeff can probably explain this a little more. You're put on this board to represent an event, but you're being asked to care for BMI.
Right.
So it's a lot more responsibility than when you first come on and think, okay, I'll talk everything Chautauqua, but I don't have to do beyond that. And so we're asking for that buy-in to be part of the bigger picture for the health of BMI in order for Chautauqua to be successful, just like with River. And Jeff's been, how long have you served on this board representing River
This one?
Fest? Yeah.
Something like
So a lot of times,
that.
is it the third one? Okay, I'm glad she keeps track. I just keep showing up, right?
It seems like about 10.
Especially the last two. But I've asked Jeff more than once, can you be involved in like an executive level of trying to present things to the board as far as like financial or something like that? And so Jeff's gone beyond the River Fest rule to help the whole organization. And I appreciate both of you, stepping up and being here.
That's a really good point, Lucy, especially if you're coming and you're on the board from an organization or from a business. It's the same kind of pull sometimes. I know the chamber board has a lot of that pull going on, so you have to watch the conflicts of interest that you might have and just try and keep those in mind and be really just transparent about what kind of conflicting interests you might have. There's the actual legal definition of a conflict of interest where, am I going to financially benefit from something? But then there's the ethical conflict of interest. Am I doing what's best for the organization? And when you come on the board, it's really about, do we have this shared mission? Do I believe in what we're trying to do here as an organization? What can I contribute to it? And so that actually brings me right into the next part, which is effective governance. And it's really about trusting, intentional, and engaged. So you want to make sure that not just that you trust each other on the board, you trust fellow board members, but that you trust the staff and that the staff trusts you, that we're all making decisions that are in the best interest of the organization at all times. The other part is to be intentional, and that's what we do with strategic planning in a lot of ways, right? Is we're trying to be intentional about how we move forward and how we engage with the community and how we engage with partners. And then also just to stay engaged. So the fact that you all are at the table today means that you are engaged, but not just to sit here, but actually contribute to conversation and do your best to put in the input that you were brought on the board because of your expertise to do. If that makes sense. All right. Any other discussion? That's all I've got.
This is normally something that we put in the workshop, if you guys remember in the last time we did the workshop a year ago, and we kind of felt like, with everybody on the same, coming back, and it would just be easier to do a little refresher during this part and then concentrate that section from later on.
Good reminder before you commit to
Right.
commit to being an officer of the organization.
All right, then. We'll get back, thank you. We'll get back to board appointments. So I have a motion on the table, I have a second. Is there discussion about that? About the nomination for president. I sometimes act like I really don't want to do it, but if I didn't, I would have been gone a long time ago. Sarah and I talk about, we get to do this, which started out kind of as a joke because it was really heavy and hard work to do. And that's become more of a everyday thing to say, you know, I get to do the things I love to do. And I care about the tourism industry. So I accept the nomination. So.
Is this where I clap?
No, we just vote on it. So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we need a vice president. So I will entertain a motion for that as well. Carrie served last year. A couple of you told me you'd step up, but we have a nomination for that.
I don't mind doing it again. As you are aware, I am the president of the chamber board, so my concern is if like you got hit by a bus, could I, be president of two of them? Don't get hit by a bus, that's my whole point. And I don't mind being the vice president again, but obviously I've got two boards in time, and so I certainly want to be able to do a good job of whatever I do. But if nobody else wants it, I will enter. If you want to vote for me, I'll be happy to take that.
So this requires a nomination.
But I also know that, if anybody else here would love to step up, I'm totally open to that too.
I nominate her.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Do we have discussion on that? All in favor? Thanks, Carrie.
Don't get hit by a bus.
So extreme.
Because I know about tragedy, you never know. But I will avoid buses.
Okay, thank
At
you.
least for 2 years.
Yes.
Okay. So we have secretary treasurer position we need to fill. Shannon did that the last 2 years. We've also, I've talked to the staff about taking minutes during meetings and being able to send those over to the secretary as soon as possible. And that way they can review, get them back quickly while everything's fresh. I think that'll help make the position more desirable as well, so.
I don't mind holding it. I mean, Tiffany and I went through all the papers I had to sign, so
Yeah.
don't want to have to do that again.
So do I have a nomination? Thank you, Jen. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. So, one thing let's see. Okay, Nancy's here. We have one more position open. I think our board is too big, but we need to follow our current bylaws, so we need to be filling that. So be thinking of someone from the tourism industry, lodging, retail, for that position. And let me know if you come up with somebody. So under new business, we are adding a VMI COVID-19 exposure plan. Tiffany worked on it more so than myself, feeling the need to have some kind of plan if our employees experience symptoms. We did have one employee that happened to. She worked from home, and if she wasn't well, then she didn't turn in her time. Otherwise, she performed her duties from home. So we just have a written plan that will go into the employee handbook. So if someone would like to nominate or make a motion to enter that into our handbook.
Hey, Carrie.
I was going to say, I'll make that motion. Thank you if it's the same one. But
Yeah.
It's pretty standard CDC guidelines.
Do I-
Oh, there it is.
Thank you. Any discussion about this? I'm glad we're doing it. I'm glad you both worked on it and you presented that to me. So, all in favor? Okay. Thank you. So we have nomination of officers, which we've already done. So that's good. We're covered. Oh, yeah, one should. Well, that's in the consent agenda.
Yeah.
So we accept that and then we don't go over it unless someone removes it. But
Okay.
let's go back to that and have a brief treasurer's report.
Brief treasurer's report. So our checking, we have $17,424.48, savings $63,517.27. And then we have the two CDs, which look like, one is mature, no. So $6,535.12, and then $6,500 $52.57, giving us a total of $94,029.44.
Thank you.
Super welcome.
I think with the one that matured, I don't know if we can make motions for it, but I think we could have a discussion about shifting that over into our, do you prefer savings account for things like that? For our CDs? And in the future, we'll talk about whether that's a good option of putting money into CDs and tying it up for little return. What is our CD percentage?
It's next to that, I mean, it's.
Less than 3%?
Oh, yeah.
Less than 0.3.
Yeah, right, I think he's about right, yeah.
So that'll be something we should, in the finance committee, can discuss later about tying up money into a CD when the return is very minimal, so. Okay, on to event reports. Let's go ahead and have Chautauqua first because we have representation here.
Got our January status report. We had our first meeting of the year, and we've got those minutes available upon request. We approved a conservative budget for the 2022 festival. We discussed openings in our committee. Anybody want to join the committee? We have openings. Come on over.
Do you want the staff to put out a call for volunteers as well as board members like we did last year? Or
Maybe when we get closer.
Okay.
That would be helpful when we get closer to the event.
Okay.
The artist application, excuse me, has been updated and released, so the application deadline is June 30th. We've emailed returning artists to invite them to our festival with their discount codes. So far, we have 23 confirmed artists, 41 invited, 23 accepted, 16 new applications received. So we do have our 2022 rat card designs in progress, and we're updating our website currently. Updating online listings and working through the marketing budget to attract some more artists. The street closure has been approved by the city, and the facility use forms were sent in for city services. The prelim tent rental has been requested, ATMs have been reserved, we've emailed requests for golf cart rental, and we're working with Linear contract for the rental of the mansion lawn, and then just general daily email correspondence. So everything seems to be moving along. As far as Chautauqua is concerned, I do have an announcement to make. So the long-standing partnership between Chautauqua and Visit Madison has resulted in many years of successful festivals. And we, the committee, want to express our appreciation and gratitude for all that VMI has helped us to achieve. Our committee has expressed a desire to separate in years past. In 2019, we were persuaded to continue under the VMI umbrella with a memorandum of understanding in place stipulating the terms of our relationship. The VMI Chautauqua partnership and subsequent contract were meant to act as a support system in order to preserve the integrity of the festival and the organizational wellness of the festival. It is at this time, however, it's the position of the Chautauqua Committee that VMI has not upheld the terms of the contract, and that in order to safeguard the future of the festival, Chautauqua must become an independent entity. On behalf of the Madison Chautauqua Festival of Art, we're announcing that we will be separating from Visit Madison Incorporated to operate under our own 501c3. We hope you'll support our decision. We request that all financial accounts and property be signed over to Madison Chautauqua Festival of Art upon the establishment of our own 501c3.
Well, I think it's important to understand that there is a memorandum of agreement that continues on through 22. I'm not sure about 23. And there's a lot of factors that play into that separation. We do own the trademark for Madison Chautauqua. It's always been my desire to not get into a war of who owns what, and to show that I think it's a level of disrespect. My goal was always to have a partnership of running side by side, that our volunteer part of the driving force of Chautauqua work hand in hand with the administrative force and have a partnership of working side by side. You know, I walked into something, there's other people that walked into something of, you know, not, it's about them against us. The desire of VMI was always it's about us, everybody. Both those parts are part of us. So when I reached out to Kara at the beginning of the year, when I was talking about, when I left you the text about getting together about leadership, last year, we've had a combination of different forms of leadership. One, having it internally with Kara, pulling it off last year with the employees having left last year, one after the other. A lot of the services provided by VMI are not necessarily something that people see. You know, when people are organizing, putting up tents, during the artists in, there's an obvious result of their work for people to see. VMI handles legal fees, a lot of other factors that play a part in that. So announcements are probably in the public meeting isn't necessarily the most appropriate route when it comes to what is in the best interest of this community. The community benefits from the event, and it's kind of a toss-up. We don't know how much, but this economic impact calculator that we've purchased in December, Sarah spent a lot of time, December, January, February, kind of reviewing that to figure it out. You're talking about an event that brings in $10 million as an estimate. Some of our retailers rely on it to carry them through the winter for 4 months. Chautauqua is much more than just an art festival. It has great value. So this isn't how contracts work. It has to take time to figure that out. Making one-sided announcements, one side and the other to be completely unaware, other than we did discuss it last year when there were so many problems, Kara. You and I spent time talking about that. So we will take that under consideration, but we'll have to have further discussion about how to proceed. Because it is such a big decision that impacts so many people.
Nobody more than at least the three of us here know the intimate details of what it takes to put on the festival.
Correct.
I personally know a lot of the details that it takes to put on the festival, because for the last few years I've done it without coordinators, and we've taken up the slack. So we totally understand, and as the statement said at the beginning, it's not out of an anger issue that we are trying to separate.
Right.
We just felt like when we went into the MOU, it was an understanding that we would have this beneficial relationship, but when times were really, really hard, Chautauqua was made very vulnerable. And that's where we feel like if we were our own 501c3, there would be, we didn't have that safety net that we thought that we were going to have.
So you will have a safety net separated?
We feel like we wouldn't have that extra layer of vulnerability. At one point, VMI, because of the Board of Tourism and things, was not potentially even going to last through the year.
Correct.
And we were still encouraged and paid admin fees into VMI. So we just feel like, you know, it's not that we don't want a working relationship as other entities have with VMI. We've wanted that since before 2019. And so
I think a couple of the things that you pointed out, like the importance of the festival, that it's how important it is to the community and the town, and also that their quote about this isn't how contracts work. I think we have a different viewpoint about this because of those exact same things. The committee is so committed to this festival and sees how it interacts with the community and sees how important the mission is, and we do value a contract being met. Thus, this is how we've decided to move forward, because, you know, and I see that today this statement has come as, you know, it's seems quite jarring, but we have in the past tried to handle it a lot more diplomatically and start discussions before and meet with individuals and kind of feel the waters, and that's what got us into this contract in 2019, was frankly doing it in a more diplomatic, politically correct format. So this time, because there's been a breach of contract, a huge one, and we were abandoned in the pandemic and still charged for a festival fee that never took place, you know, I can't say that VMI is a partner. None of us can. And it's a working festival where we all on the committee are doing that back end work that you're saying, you know, no one else sees what it takes upon the festival. We know because we're doing it. With all due respect.
If I may, I've kind of been left feeling here like we're beating around something and hasn't been explained very well. This is strictly from a position of seeking to understand. I just want to understand. There was a single line in your statement that said there's a breach of contract. I just heard from you there's a massive breach of contract. I heard from you that that VMI is not going to even exist, which has nothing to do with our contract. That's a JCBT thing that has nothing to do with us. So we have to leave here and discuss for other people and answer questions of, well, they said you breached their contract. I'd like to hear exactly, line by line, down the list of how we have breached the contract, and that should be put in writing because it is a contract, there's contractual obligation. First of all, because we have to explain it. Secondly, because we should get better, if that's the truth. I mean, that's a bad word.
Right.
If that truly is how it is, and we have failed, we need to know that. But that needs to be very specific and detailed on how that breach, this massive breach, because I hear some generalizations of how this happened, but I haven't heard yet really what we're talking about of how we failed.
We'd be happy to put that in writing. We didn't want it to become this airing of grievances of, you know, what.
But
that's valid.
that's what's
Right.
caused it. That is the
Yeah.
very thing. That's what
Right.
makes it hard for folks to engage in this, but it's necessary.
Right.
This is the hard work that we have to do. So if we have failed in some way, we need to know that. And we need to be able to put back of, hey, here's really where we stand on each one of those. Of, yeah, you're saying this, but here's really what happened. We have no opportunity to do that with what we were presented here. Now, I know you've spent a lot of time on it, the first time I've heard about it, so I would just exhort everyone to let's get into this and figure out really what it is. First of all, so we can explain it, and second of all, so we can get better. There's a lot of other reasons too, but those would be the two primary reasons.
So to build on that, I would say there's two things that we need to do after this meeting would be, one, make a list of where you feel that VMI has breached their contract. And then what VMI needs to do, and we've talked about this, never been done, is proper documentation of all services provided by VMI to all of our events. And to have some kind of value to that, to know what that is. So how about you guys work on that, and staff will work on a list providing all hours, how much that costs, and what services are provided. If we all determine to not have the MOU any longer, that will also be able to give you some indication of where you're going to need extra help or what services you may need, something you may not have thought of if you go out on your own. So let's do that.
And I also want to make sure everyone understands that, you know, all of the proper paperwork and everything that would need to be done on behalf, we had started in 2019. It's, you know, we're not going into this blindly, like we don't know what we're doing as far as establishing the 501c3, and we don't know how to go out on our own. That was all pursued before we have all that documentation, that it can be updated and filed, and we know that it's a process, so it won't, even if everyone walked out of here today saying we agree, it wouldn't happen today. It takes a process, it takes time to accomplish it, so we still need to continue a working relationship.
I think
And like I said, it is not done out of any kind of revenge or malice or anything that we are trying to just say we're out.
Yeah.
It's just, we just feel like this is the best course of action for the festival.
Yeah. And from a VMI perspective, we have to think of the big picture about the entire community and the impact. But when you do that work and we do our work, that can help to decide how to proceed as well. If that's going to be in the best interest of the community, that Chautauqua goes solo. And you know, there's no malice on either end. You know, you've expressed that, I want to express that. This is not personal. This is very, very much a tourism business decisions that have to be made where we take into account the people it impacts. And you know, your part in it is much more specialized. You can focus on what you need to focus on for your event, while VMI's has to think of the whole big picture. So, okay. Thanks for your report. Appreciate that. Okay, Erin, we'll talk about Riverfest and nights.
So I'll start with Riverfest just because that's kind of been the looming pushback of a subject to just dealing with nights and getting through that with figuring everything out as a new thing. So you have a small agenda in your documents and then also a budget versus actual. So in old business, just the finance report, review of the budget and actual. If you want to look at that, I found the budget for 2021 and was able to plug in some real numbers. Feel free to review those. A few things that I want to point out is that we do have some sponsorship payments that we have yet to receive, that we're working with those to get those finalized in. We also had some sponsorships that happened in 2020 that carried to 2021. That was just, you know, with me coming in new and trying to figure out and look at 2 years of books as opposed to one. It's taken some time. So those were some additions. We had several events that did not happen with 2021 just because of COVID and different things, and we didn't know how the event was going to happen. So that played into our numbers. And then we also had some under-sponsored events. So we need more sponsorships is what it boils down to, and some that just we weren't able to obtain, which again, we had an event, it was fantastic, but we had a lot of personnel transitioning, and now we're getting a better grasp on things. So this year it's going to be bigger and better. A few other factors, like I said, the staff changing, it was basically like threefold. We had somebody that was here and had been through one event, and then we didn't have an event, and then they were trying to come back. So anytime you're stepping into anything new, it's kind of difficult. And then when you're coming in after somebody and then after somebody else and trying to piece it together, they kept phenomenal records, but still just trying to figure out their system was a little bit hard, but we got there. Thanks to you guys. Let's see, I just also want to hit that the fact that at least the documentation was there. I have been able to piece together a lot of how processes work. Even though I've been involved with the event for 10 plus years, it hasn't been in this step. So thankfully we had computer systems and Dropbox and everything in place that I was able to dig through, and kind of that helped a lot with my finances and figuring out where everything was. And then also our wristband sales, I mean, obviously they're going to be down a little bit this year just because it was COVID. We had people that would a lot of times do pre-purchase that didn't do that this year just because they were like, are we going to have the event? Are we not? I think we were in red status right before it started, and then we trickled back. So it was pretty touch and go, and a lot of people didn't purchase until the day of. So those are a few things that kind of played into it, but you can review my spreadsheet and let me know if you have any questions there.
Why is there such a big difference between the income of wristbands and the actual wristbands?
Say that again.
Why is there such a big difference between the income from wristband sales and the actual wristband sales?
Oh, that was just the budgeted amount that they anticipated for this year.
Oh, okay.
So then the actual amount that came in, I'm not sure when the budget was created, again, it was just something that was there. So with COVID playing into it, not knowing how big it was gonna be, I'm gonna assume when they created the budget, they weren't anticipating it to carry on for so long.
Okay, thank you.
Budget, I'm presenting to our committee my budget for 2022 this Wednesday, so I will be talking about that when we come back. We're going to be having lots of talks about the 20th anniversary, which is this year, so we're super excited about that and a lot of fun new things to come. Plans on increased sponsorship, I've been talking to a lot of people, so that's still happening. And we just have some special line items that I've talked to a couple of our committee people that I'm hoping we can make happen this year, so it's going to be a lot of fun. A few items that we have in process currently. I'm still working on a discussion with the rental of our equipment to other events and how that actually works. So we're trying to get a policy in place and we're working through that. We've talked about that at the past couple meetings. Working on the budget approval. And then I already told you the sponsorships. We have some new ones that I'm reaching out to this year to kind of increase our sponsorship, specifically as a one-time thing to really hit big for our 20th anniversary. I think we're finally to a point where people aren't afraid to come to the events. It's not really iffy. I think they're going to be there, and it's our 20th, so we're going to blow it out the water. Blues lineups, this is probably the funnest part so far, that I just did not realize everything that happened with creating our lineup, so it's been a lot of fun. Our blues committee is phenomenal. I get text messages nonstop, emails nonstop. It's a lot of work to kind of keep track of. But we have our headliner and our lineup for Friday night pretty much in the final stages of it. We've signed contracts and sent addendums. We're waiting on that finalization for them to sign back with us, but it's happening. Saturday night, we're finalizing a few things. We still have a few more openings, but we're working through that, so that's pretty exciting. And we're hoping to have that announced, our finalized lineup announced to everybody in March, so stay tuned. Watch our Facebook page and all of that. We have some fun things happening with Backyard and our beer committee, and I can't really say anything else about that, but it's going to be really cool. And then our timeline, currently, just looking at the timeline that has been presented to me, we're pretty much up to speed. There's a few things that are still lagging, but it's just, they're in process, so we're gonna be all caught up. But I feel like I have a really good hold on everything this year. I'm really appreciative of all the help and all the questions that you guys have helped me with, so to kind of get me through and fill in those holes. And then again, on new business, basically we're just hitting that 20th anniversary really big, so budgeting, sponsorship, and new partnerships with different companies and things that have been very interested in being part of us. So. Is there any questions for Riverfest? And I'll just move on to nights really quick.
Do you have an economic impact?
Not for Riverfest. We're working on that. Yeah. So moving on to nights. That basically, I mean, we just went through that, and I already went through the finances of that last time I think that we met. So with Nights Before Christmas right now, I'm getting ready to send out invitations for the follow-up meeting and then also for the thank you party. We have a very good list of potential homes and everything like that, so I'm hoping to get those contracted in the next couple months. So.
Any questions? Thank you. All right, we have public comment. That's a comment that, anybody have anything? All right, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Afterwards, we are taking pictures. That sound like fun? So,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?